Hello, welcome to part 2 of 6 in the Halloween Effects series, this time covering deeper recall, or what we could call memory. This time honoring Dr. Andrew Huberman, the most prominent and influential neuroscientist in the business, and focusing on the Halloween party as a theme, with his special work being the formula or the recipe, and then the effect that we want to achieve being consolidation of a memory. And that's something that we'll get into in detail. But first, I need to apologize for what happened in the last video where I had the horns on my head and it freaked some people out. I understand that could have been a bit unsettling. I'd like to retroactively apologize for that and also prospectively apologize for this. And I'd like to just jump right into the video also. Again, consolidation is the most important thing that we're looking for. What that means is that the neurons that have been tagged, as we've talked about a bunch of times, with certain chemicals, they now get those special important information sent off into long-term memory. And in this case, the little diagram here refers to a kid who's explored Halloween trick-or-treating and found that in the pink house they get a big bag of Skittles, in the green house they get this little scrubby candy, and then in this other house they get a toothbrush, the worst. And then they want to remember where to get the good candy every other year, so they can, or every year, so they can go back, and maybe even twice. And that's a memory that you would consolidate. And we'll talk about how that would happen, the science of that. But let us first describe Andrew Huberman as a professional. As it says here, he's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford. He hosts a podcast called Huberman Lab. And his lab is really at the center of what he calls modern neuroscience, and I think that's a good term for it. His special areas, I think I said, are stress response, visual system, obviously, and neuroplasticity. I represented the visual system here for the first time. This is big. We've added a new part, a fifth color to the brain, just the occipital part of the brain here, just in honor of him. And he makes his work available to the world for free because that's just how he does it. It's very impressive. It's very nice. And I leverage it heavily, as you'll see, and as anyone that knows what I'm saying and what he says would know, a lot of what I'm saying is directly from him because he's got all the citations and the science and the research, and all the work behind it is sound. So it's appropriate to cite the best, and he's probably the best in the business at what he does, certainly the communicating of it. The theme for this video is a Halloween party, and this party, in my mind, was experienced by him and his colleagues at some college, where each of the different professors is weighing in. The physics person wants to know about the venue. Is it going to be inside, outside? Are there seats to even sit in? Where are you going to sit in? They want to know the particulars of the physics. Chemistry person wants to have a themed party of something like I Love Dracula. So for vibes, I think this is the term. I think that's the actual technical term, even though vibes would be more of a physics thing than a chemistry thing. Biology people, they're more interested in who's going to be there, because if their best buddies are there, they don't care about the theme or the venue, whatever, as long as you guys are there. Technology people might be more interested in practical applications. I've spent my whole life as a technologist. We'd want to know if we can do something, deliver something, and I think in this case, the proposal from the technology person might be that instead of bobbing for apples, it's bobbing for Apple Watches, because if you leave with a Apple Watch as a party favor, nothing else matters. And then you got your more metaphysical types, the psychs and the philosophy type professors that would want to just focus on the experience, and the truest gift is the gift of an experience, or something like that. Moving right along, Huberman's own recipe. Okay, this is a little bit of the technical part of the discussion, like we've been doing every time here in these little series here. First, types of memory. There's 3 types traditionally described of memory. There's sensory memory, working memory, long-term memory. We're interested in this discussion in long-term memory. I may have other videos on the other ones or something, because there's plenty to say about that and things you can do. To consolidate to long-term memory, you want to ultimately achieve long-term potentiation, which we've talked about in multiple videos now, so I won't belabor it. It's simply to say that the action potential, remember that electrical current, is more likely to fire along the neural pathway than otherwise. And I'm going to quickly demonstrate that using this little circuit thing right here. This might be loud, I'll edit it, but once you touch both of these metallic parts, the circuit completes, like that. And a weak circuit might sound like this. And then as you potentiate the neural circuitry, every time it fires till it's ready to go. Now, that's long-term potentiation. Long-term depression, strangely named, doesn't have anything to do with depression. It means depotentiating that neural pathway. Say this is a neural pathway from PTSD. Say you served overseas, and every time you hear a loud boom from a car backfiring, you hit the deck because you think it's the enemy. Every car backfires and you hit the deck. Car backfires. But what you want is car backfires and nothing happened. That's good. When you do replace a PTSD, say a traumatic memory, with something else, you have to do exactly that, replace it. You don't just make it go away, you actually have to replace it. The next words that I wrote here are state dependence, whatever that means. I'll tell you what it means. It means that this picture is right here. It means that sometimes you can remember things better when you've learned them in a particular state. In this case, I just drew, I know there's a study about divers that have been given a number to remember. I used pi as a representation here. That when they were near water, they could remember that number, no problem. And then when they weren't near water and they were asked to repeat it, they got it wrong. See this guy saying 3.15? That's wrong. No. And then here, he gets by some water again, and all of a sudden he can remember pi, and he knows it's 3.14 again. Dual encoding would mean as you're learning and taking in information, you add in a sensory stimulus that goes along with it, like, for example, a smell that might go along with a very important lesson to help you remember it. There's a lot more to say about that. It's a bit nuanced, and I will cover that more some other time. His focus protocols for the eyes are really impressive. Just as an example, sometimes you might unfocus your eyes in order to focus. Again, this merits its own discussion. You can also watch his, and I'm going to link all of his stuff in here because that's the source for that. Non-sleep deep rest is a technique that would be added into the plasticity induction techniques that we've talked about before, where you can induce neuroplasticity. In that video, I had said there's something you can do after at the time I was talking about a speech therapy appointment. And this is the thing you would do after. After the speech therapy appointment is over, or whatever learning bout you've experienced, take about 5 or 10 minutes and rest. You don't have to sleep, but as quiet and calm and reflective as you could be, the better. If you could just even sit, like I think I drew this guy in a lazy boy here. Limbic friction is another term that Dr. Huberman has coined. The limbic system in the brain is drawn here, very accurately, as a matter of fact. The purple stuff and the red thing, and a bunch of other things, a bunch of other nucleuses and parts of the brain that deal with what we can very loosely term emotions, emotional states, and things that aren't so much like logic, like here in the prefrontal cortex area, we'd be all logical. This is the emotional parts of the brain, you could say. It certainly has connections and projections everywhere, to be sure. It's constantly trying to tell other parts of the brain what to do. Like it was thought for a while that it didn't project and talk to the prefrontal cortex, so it does. And so that's how your emotions can override your judgment sometimes, if you want to look at it that way. Also, it tries to talk all the time to the parts of the brain that control the autonomic functions of the body, the breathing, the circulation. So your limbic system wants to be emotional, but sometimes you don't want it to. If you're about to walk into a scary test and you have to calm down, there's ways to do that. Huberman teaches them. A lot of you will have seen that on his podcasts and everything, and on the internet, the Huberman Lab podcast on YouTube. One of them he calls the physiological side. It's the only thing I'll specifically relate in this video, which is to say, if you did need to calm down right before an important interview or test or anything, you would breathe in very deeply and then hold that breath for just a second while it's in, and then take one more little topper offer breath just to fully fill your lungs, and then hold that for just a second more, and then just release it slowly and calmly and coolly, and then maybe do it a few more times as needed. And that is proven to help you to bring down your physiological arousal, to chill out. There's ways to get yourself worked up as needed too, but again, another video. This is like an example of dual encoding where you want to remember pi. Maybe you listen to some music that associates it. Wait till you see video number 4. This dude recites pi out to 15,000 digits. I can't even remember the specific number of how many digits he recites it to. That's hard enough for me to remember. And this dude recites pi to 15,000 digits without an error. He's being featured in number 4 in this series. And then there's the reference to his unfocused to focus work, which I find to be fascinating and awesome. After party effects. So it's just, again, bringing this all back together and bringing it home here so we can get to the consolidation. Let's take our standard example of a kid experiencing a Halloween party, maybe for the first time. Let's just go with that. And that person is now invited. That's scary enough to even have to just walk up to a house that's got decorations. You see there's a blood moon and everything. And then even worse, inside there's people that want to make eye contact. Again, this can be generally scary for a kid. And so they've gotten through it. They've gotten some socialization. They're seeing scary costumes, bobbing for apples and competitions and playing games maybe. They have some realizations. There's scary things. There's some symbols that represent scary things. There's people can see into the future. That lady at the party, she was doing the fortune telling. You can tell stories to help you remember things because you want to remember where those Skittles are so you can go back twice next year. So you need to consolidate that. So you see here our little diagram of Skittle brain equals pink house, and then the hippocampus knows that, and it shoots it off into long-term memory. And that's what these neurochemicals make happen. You know, we talked about that in the last video. Just like Dr. Huberman, who wants to make his work available to the world for free, plasticity to the people. EAR is quickly, I'll just tell you, is a reference to emotion, attention, and repetition. That's what is the key to plasticity. No cost neuroscience knowledge, that's what he puts out for the world, and he does it for the greater good, just like we want to, just like some people I really respect, like Paul Daugherty does. You know, in the future, we're going to talk a lot more about human and machine interaction. And last, I wanted to pay respect to this man's dog, Costello, who passed away a few years ago. Thank you very much, and I hope that everybody
has a happy Halloween.